And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Tonight's weather map showing just a very weak low here over the northwest Bering Sea. High pressure down over the western Aleutians. Light winds, dry conditions over the Bering Sea. Scattered showers continue Kodiak Island, isolated over the southwest interior. Diminishing showers and thunderstorms over the eastern interior. And increasing low clouds along the southeast coast once again. That should burn off over the inside waters during the day tomorrow there. And about the same pattern here for south central Alaska. Scattered showers, isolated thunderstorms again develop over the Alaska Range, eastern interior, mostly sunny from the Brooks Range itself out to the Arctic coast. This system down here to the south takes a push to the northeast and brings be more of a rain than wind producer here for the southeast coast, with rain from the Queen Charlottes all the way up to Yakutat. Showers once again over the interior. And a storm finally showing up out here to the west that should kick the winds up a little bit for the western central Aleutian areas. Coastal water forecast for the southeast coast there on the south coast. South to southeasterlies tomorrow at 10 to 15 knots. Southeast 10 to 15 on the central coast, and east-southeast 15 for the north coast. Inside waters, light variable winds 5 to 10 knots with seas at 2 feet. And then for Friday, we're going to put some small craft advisories for Clarence Strait. South winds increasing to 25 knots, seas building to 5 feet. Southeast winds 20 knots here on the south coast, and the north coast kind of a variable direction here from west to north at 15 to 20 knots. And for Prince William Sound, variable winds 15 knots for the day Thursday. Cook Inlet, light south to southwest breeze at 10. Southeast 15 for Kamishak Bay, east 15 for the Barren Islands and western North Gulf Coast. Variable winds 15 to 20 knots for the eastern North Gulf Coast. And for Friday, Prince William Sound, light northwest breeze at 10 knots, seas 2 feet. Light southwest winds for Cook Inlet at 10 knots. West at 15, Kamishak Bay turn northwest for the Barren Islands. And the North Gulf Coast looking at northerly winds at 15 knots with 5-foot seas. Kodiak Island, northeast winds 20 to 25 knots tomorrow, strongest in Shelikof Strait. Light easterlies at 10 for Bristol Bay. And for the Alaska Peninsula, variable to northeast winds 10 to 15 knots. Outlook for Friday, west-northwest winds 15 to as high as 20 knots for the Alaska Peninsula area. And southwest to northwest 15 to 20 knots for Kodiak Island. Bristol Bay, west winds at 20 knots. And for the Aleutians tomorrow, you don't see this too often. Variable winds at 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet, or 2 to 4 feet, call it, along the entire Aleutian chain for the day Thursday. Then for Friday, when that next system pulls up to the south there, look for a little bit of an increase in the winds out here. Central eastern Aleutian, southeast 20 knots, Adak and Atka. East to northeast 15 to 25 knots here for the western Aleutians. And northwest or west-northwest at 15 for Unalaska Island. And for St. Lawrence Island, southwest coast tomorrow, light east winds at 10 knots, variable 10 for Norton Sound and St. Matthew Island, as well as the Pribilofs. And from there, moving to Friday, northwest 15 for Norton Sound, and picking up here along the coast from St. Lawrence Island all the way down here along the southwest coast, looking at northwest winds at 20 knots, seas 3 to 4 feet, but winds stay light and variable for St. Matthew Island, St. Paul, and St. George. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, light winds out of the north and northeast at 5 to 10 knots, east of 15 on the central coast, western Arctic coast here, northeast at 20 knots in the Chukchi Sea, mostly north winds at 15 knots. And then for Friday, Chukchi Sea, west to north winds at 10 to 15 knots, northeast at 15 for the western Arctic coast, central and east side, east to northeast winds at 10 knots.